I'm going to turn this TV down because it's super freaking
Sean was
loud.
attending, knew him as a good student who loved comic books, and he had a talent for drawing. Sean wasn't popular by any means. He had like a few friends, but for the most part, he really just enjoyed learning. Pretty good kid. Many of his teachers noted that Sean absolutely
What is up, y'all?
almost always had his nose in the book.
I hurt my foot yesterday.
Again, in Colorado,
because I dropped shit on my foot, because that's me.
He was finding himself. He seemed happy.
And legitimately, that just sounds like the dumb shit I do. So,
school, right? Things are great.
I'm gonna put that there. Get this heart open.
Not long after moving to Colorado, Sean
put one of these hairbrushes away.
His parents notified him or informed him that they would be moving again. This time they're going back to Oklahoma. So, for obvious reasons, like Sean is devastated by this news. He finally found somewhere that he belongs. He's doing well, succeeding in life. He has hobbies. He's just doing well. He doesn't want to go. And he's trying to convince his parents to just let him stay. Like, for the first time in my life, things are doing well. Please just let me stay. Sean's parents knew that there's no way that they could leave their 15-year-old alone in Colorado while they moved to Oklahoma. So unfortunately, they had to move, and they did. So they headed back to Oklahoma City. And then after they moved, Sean's attitude changed. He was angry. He's a teenager for starters, so that's not good because they're usually...
Go ahead and say hi, get a conversation started. I am just setting up my products.
Okay, and he just didn't see the point in participating or giving his all in this new city because what was the frickin' point? They were probably going to move again once he started to like it there, Now, Sean's mom, Vonda, she had a temper of her own. She just seemed to take her frustrations out on Sean. He was often beaten for different reasons. She would slap him across the face, hit him with a coat, or just punch him in the face. And all of this and the move just really broke him, and his anger was building up inside. While in school, Sean said that he received an underground magazine from some guy who was promoting.
Feel free to talk.
He's like, ooh, what's
I
that?
don't bite.
And like it was a handmade magazine just filled with satanic metal bands. There was an interview and artwork from Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, remember? There were cartoons of different serial killers in the magazine. It was just focused mainly on satanic killers. Sean said when he got this, he was interested. Okay, he was like, what is this? I've never seen something like this before. I don't quite understand this next part, but Sean said that he met someone who considered themselves a witch. No idea where they met this person, but it was said that he met a witch. Okay, and that this
because I haven't done a dark look in a while, we're going to use black lipstick today.
Black magic. And that he was just really infatuated with it all. It was all new, it was different, it was intriguing. He liked it, So now that he was introduced to it, Sean was trying to do all of his own research on
and then we need a black eyeshadow.
And he would go to his local library and find books on the topic.
And then of course we need black
would lead him to find books about Satanism. And no, I'm not saying they go hand in hand, but this is how Sean was introduced to it. Like it was in the same section. So he finds this book that he's like, oh, what is this? Satan? Oh, let me read this, And he's just obsessed. It's a new obsession. It just really caught his interest. And Sean said that he was so interested in it because he was mad at God. And
okay, now we've got the setup done.
And a promise
put my
to
hair up.
control his life and control others. That's what really lured him in. The thing that Sean...
So the flag I'm doing today is called Ceterosexual, sometimes also referred to as Scoliosexual. So that's what we're doing today, which is just the attraction to non-binary or transgender people. For anyone who does not know, colors are simple: yellow, green, pink, white, and black.
At this time, he's also playing Dungeons and Dragons, and some articles try to say that inspired him even more to get into Satanism. But Sean said in a blog post that it was not the Dungeons and Dragons that got him into it. It was just something that people were using to feed the narrative. So I'm just saying that because if you heard that and you're like, what about Dungeons and Dragons? He said it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. So at this time, Sean is into Satan. Cool. So he's a sophomore in high school.
Worst experience he had
Sean
this week.
said that he would bring small vials of
I've actually had pretty good experiences this week. I don't really have anything negative to say.
Throughout the day in class, he would drink the blood. So he turned
Go ahead and start a conversation, guys.
He didn't have
we can talk about anything you want to talk about.
It was one of those, drinking blood.
Just doing makeup.
I'm not judging. I can't imagine that's good for you. I don't know. Anyway, so he's doing that. Sean said that Satanism taught him that he could make his own rules to live by in life, and the rituals of it would allow him
What are you
to
doing?
take his
Getting
control back.
chips.
And
Chips?
Sean's knowledge on Satanism grew because he was just
Watching Beyond Scared Straight.
could about the
Yeah.
topic, and
Yeah.
he
Thank you
said
for the
that he
follow.
participate in various satanic
Sounds exciting.
rituals more and more often.
Really?
What he didn't
not taking it with
secretly
me.
know was the
And
side
really, yeah.
came along
Really?
with this. Oh yes, side effects. Over time, Sean started having strange problems, as he called them. He
Okay,
said that
you
he
and
was
Beyond
hearing
Scared Straight
voices in
program
his
for
head,
me.
but he was hearing voices in his head from a young age. But these voices seemed to amplify and would
I'm
soon
gonna restrain
sound
you and
very
restrain you
different
from
than
me.
how they once had.
Don't threaten me with a
He
good
said
time.
that these voices were demons, and they urged him to do the things that he wanted done, whatever that means, you know? I think most people would be like, oh, there's a demon in me. I need to get it out, but not Sean, nay. He would say that these voices didn't scare him at all. It just solidified the idea that Sean was doing something right. He's communicating with these demons. Soon after, Sean realized that the demon
Yeah,
voices
that was my
were
wife.
showing up in his mind more and more. And he said that he began having blackout periods in which like a light switch of his awareness would be flicked off for a period of time, and he just wouldn't have any memory of like what happened. After these blackouts, Sean could not remember what he had been doing exactly. He said that he felt like his mind was like constantly jumbled. He couldn't calm the voices down. He couldn't calm the thoughts down. He couldn't focus on anything. And these voices were actually becoming more of a serious problem for him. So at first the voices aren't bothering him. He's kind of like, oh yeah, it's like proving to me that I'm on the right track. But I guess the voices just keep going on for so long, and it's becoming such a problem for him that he goes to his mom and he tells her, like, Mom, I'm hearing these voices in my head and I think that I'm going crazy.
I am working on my
Mom,
next true
his mom's a
crime
dumbass,
segment
and she's
also.
like, oh, okay.
Looking forward
She
to that one on
assumed
Friday.
He was just being a teenage boy, just going through those normal teenager hormonal changes, you know, the ones where you hear demons and such, teens. So she doesn't do anything with this information. She's like, oh, you're crazy? Okay, get in line. Sure. So Sean finds that to be a little bit frustrating because he feels as if his mom is not taking him seriously because she's not. So he ends up going to 2 different teachers, and he tells these teachers, like, I'm hearing things, I'm just not feeling right, like something's not right. But these 2 teachers also didn't do anything with the information that he gave them. He was trying to get somebody to help him. I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable, right? Like this poor guy. I don't know what I would do. So at school, Sean did have a friend. His name was Richard Howard, and he ends up telling his
I love
friend,
people
Richard,
have,
at
like,
school, he's
2 names,
I'm having these
like 2
really
first
just
names.
dark,
Richard
morbid
Howard.
thoughts about doing
Like,
really
their first and last
awful
name is 2
things. And his
first
friend,
names is-
Richard,
If that
he
makes
was a
sense.
little
I don't
nervous
think
at
I'm
first
explaining
to
what I
tell
mean right,
Richard
but
because
it is what it
scared away,
is.
right? Like if your friend tells you, I'm thinking about some really dark shit, you might be a little scared. I don't know. So Richard's listening to this, and instead of like offering any type of advice or anything, Richard tells Sean that he needs to embrace the thoughts and that these thoughts aren't bad. They're actually cool because I have them too. This is what Richard's telling Sean. Richard tells Sean, I too am interested in Satanism. I've always
Not
had
that Satanism is a bad thing.
and
Satanism
they're
is not a
powerful.
problem.
Let's keep
The
them.
thoughts that he was having
Richard,
about
he
hurting
too
people
was
were
deep
bad.
into the darkness.
Very bad.
Sean said that Richard
We don't
was
act
way
on
more
those.
evil than he had
That's
ever
not
been,
nice.
and that Richard was the one
We
who
don't hurt others.
initiated a lot of their evil discussions that they had between the 2 of them. Instead of talking about whatever teen boys
So
talk
we're calling
about,
it evil
sports,
discussions.
love interest, or whatever. I don't know what boys talk about. But Sean and Richard would discuss potential crimes that they wanted to commit. They would go into like great detail about different murders and robberies they wanted to commit, and then they would talk about how they wanted to rape certain people before killing them. In a later interview,
Horrible.
Sean would say that, like, all of these discussions, this conversation, they were all hypothetical. They weren't, like...
Also, if you have any, like, suggestions for true crime videos, please drop me something in the comments or, like, in my messages so I can look into it and set up a segment for that.
Cool to do.
Be pretty awesome of you. Not even gonna lie.
Just became more and more serious. Like, they weren't joking around anymore. According to Sean, Richard absolutely hated.
Like, I've gotten a request for the Hello Kitty case, which I'm gonna do after Jeffrey Dahmer. I've gotten a request for BTK, which will come after the Hello Kitty case. But I need more ideas.
So Richard tells Sean, like, hey, you know, maybe we can borrow
Maybe, like,
one of
Richard
my
Ramirez
guns
should come
and
after
use that to murder
BTK,
Al
maybe?
Hawk together. Wouldn't that be
The
fun?
Night
Now, it
Stalker.
didn't take much convincing for Sean to then agree. Sean mentioned that he did want to, like, offer some sort of sacrifice that would grant him power in the afterlife with Satan, you know? So he's like, yeah, we should do that. In order for the two of them to feel equally accomplished that evening, Richard said that he would only kill Al after Sean killed someone else first. That way they're even, you know? The two went back and forth trying to decide who would be their first target. Finally, Richard suggested that Sean kill the night shift cashier at the local Circle K. Now, at this point, Sean didn't really care who his victim was. He just wanted to know what it felt like to kill. The Circle K cashier, his name was Robert Bauer. He almost always worked the midnight shift during the week. And Richard, he would usually stop by that Circle K location on his way home from seeing his girlfriend most nights. Richard said that him and the Circle K cashier, Robert, they were, like, friendly with one another. But there was one time when Richard was trying to buy a beer. Mind you, he's 16, so, like, that's not gonna happen. He thought that Robert and him were cool and that Robert would allow him to get
Thank you for the
beer. But
lights,
instead,
lesbian
Robert told him
off-grid.
no, and this was enough for Robert to move to the top of the boys' kill list because they couldn't get beer. It's not funny, but it's like, oh my god, really? Yes, really. So on that very same night, Richard planned on killing Al Hawk. The two of them went to the Circle K store first. So when the two of them arrived, they went inside and they talked to the cashier, Robert Bauer, for some time.
Hi.
They first purchased some fountain drinks and some snacks, and they were kind of stalling until the perfect moment came. The teenage boys asked different questions about the security measures inside the store. They're asking him, like, hey, where are the cameras at? Do you guys have any cameras here? Do you have a gun behind the counter? And most of the answers were like, no, we don't have that. They didn't have cameras, no gun. Robert told the boys that he had never been robbed before and that the cash register only would carry $50 cash all day. So it was like he was sure nobody would ever kill him for $50 cash. And for the most part, that was true. But Sean wasn't interested in the money. He just wanted somebody to kill. So Sean said that he exited the store and he walked out to the truck where he got the revolver that they had gotten from
My
the
cat
back
is
seat of
wandering
the
around
truck.
in
Sean
here.
said
I didn't
for a
know she was
moment
in
he
here when I
had
closed the
really
door.
stood outside and
But
was
she's
thinking,
pretty-
like, I don't think I can
she's
actually do this.
pretty
Like, I don't think I'm
docile,
actually
so.
capable of killing somebody. And then
Welcome
Sean
back,
said
lesbian
that the
off-grid.
light switch in his head flicked and these voices just flooded in, telling him that he needed to stop being a coward and that he just needed to go do it. So once Sean got back into the store, Robert was up in his spot behind the counter, and then Richard was walking up and down the aisles pretending to, like, look for snacks.
I, like, dropped
And
this, like,
Richard held up a
metal
a
part of our
random
bed
product
frame
on the shelf and was like,
on the
"Hey, how much
fucking
is this?"
foot last night,
Robert
and
stopped
it
and
hurts like
towards
a
him. So he turns around, and when he turns around, standing right there was Sean holding a gun.
Yeah, it happens.
Like, nothing
We
was
are not
being
off-grid,
said.
and our
It
internet
was
still
just
sucks sometimes.
Sean
God sneezes and our internet goes out,
shooting
so.
voices, and Robert is trying to get away, but Sean keeps shooting and keeps missing. There's like a struggle. It really goes on for a little bit of time. It's quite sad. And then Sean shoots again, which at that last shot is when it hits and kills Robert for no damn reason too. Like, According to Sean, the two boys, they run out, they hop into Richard's truck, and they sped off, laughing. That's what he said. They were laughing at what they had just done. Their adrenaline was just pumping, and Sean couldn't believe that, like, he...
So I'm actually doing, like, a dark lip and a dark eye with this particular flag because its ending color is black. And I have not done a dark look in a while, so we're going to see how this looks. Hopefully it goes good.
Could not remember exactly why they decided to abandon their original plan.
What are you listening to? Bailey Sarian on YouTube. She also does true crime. She does murder mystery and makeup Mondays. Although she hasn't been doing them for a while, she needed a little break. I have my own true crime channel. I can't speak English. Under Christy Jackson that also does true crime every Friday. I just call it True Crime and Makeup.
There were no suspects in mind, no evidence, no cameras. It was just one big mystery. Who would want this innocent, hardworking man dead? Now, when Sean read the paper with the news in it saying that they had no leads and stuff, he said that he was feeling relieved, but most of all, he was feeling...
Well, be sure to follow me on YouTube or be here every Friday. I do not have a set time, though, of when I post. It just kind of depends on how my day is going because I have kids. But, yeah. I go live on Facebook, I post YouTube, and I go live on TikTok every Friday to do true crime. This week's video is on Jeffrey Dahmer, which is a little more difficult because I had heard that people are being sued for using victims' names in their like videos. So I have to kind of be careful about what I say. So that's going to be interesting for Shiz.
She did not like Angel, okay? And she would often badmouth her in front of Sean. She would call her a slut or a whore, reminding her of what a loser she was. His mother was doing everything she possibly could to try and convince Sean that they needed to break up and that it was for his own good. But Sean was not willing to give up the one thing that was making him happy in Oklahoma, this girl Angel. Eventually, Sean could no longer handle the way his mom was verbally abusing both him and his girlfriend. She's only 15 years old, lady. Like, back the fuck up. You know, that's not your, just, no. She had no, like, motherly instinct towards Sean. And all of this is just building up inside of him. And Sean said that the voices inside of his head were giving him a nudge, telling him that Sean knew what he needed to do. Oh, and he did it. In the evening of March 5th, 1986,
thank you for the likes.
Sean's parents were in the other room, Sean crept into their bedroom, opened up his stepfather's nightstand, and inside, that's where he kept his .44 revolver. So, Sean gets the gun, puts it into his waistband of the jeans that he's wearing, and he slowly, like, walks back to the bedroom, hoping not to make a peep and let his parents know that he's stealing their gun. So he makes it back to his bedroom, and he closes the door, and he's just waiting there. He's waiting in his room until he knows that his parents are going to sleep. Sean said that while he's waiting for his parents to, like, go to their room, he stripped
my wife is downstairs watching Beyond Scared Straight
and performed one of his rituals. Out of my own curiosity, I was trying to figure out what was this ritual he was doing, because I was like, what are you doing? But I couldn't figure it out. He didn't say. And before stepping out of his room, Sean convinced himself that he wasn't committing murder. He was just removing an obstacle from his way. He hears his parents go to bed, and he waits a little bit. He does this little ritual, and he's in his underwear.
Removing an obstacle.
He creeps back into his parents' room with the gun in his hand, and he said that he made the last-minute decision to kill his stepfather first. So he gets right next to his stepfather, Lee, and he
I'm gonna set that, and then I'll put more primer on it, and we will start on actual eyes.
The gunshot woke Vonda right up, right? So she shoots up, and then Sean shoots a couple of times, and then kills his mom. Sean said that he fired a couple of shots afterwards just to make sure, you know, can't have them be alive, and he killed them. Sean said that after killing them, the voices left, and he then had no memory or no idea of what he had just done. Which, even though, like, later on, he goes into great detail about the murders, but also he doesn't remember. Blackout, like, sure. Afterwards, Sean went around the house.
It's just under my name, Christy Jackson. I don't have a title to it yet. I haven't quite gotten that far.
Intruder came into the family home and killed his parents.
I've only done like 3 segments so far. So.
You know? And afterwards, Sean calls up his friend. He tells them.
But I also have the makeup looks that I do on TikTok Live. Those are also up on YouTube.
Shorts while firing the shots so no blood would spatter and be discovered on his clothing. And he thought like he was a genius because of this. He's telling his friend, he's like, yeah, look what I did. Smart. The friend's probably like, oh my god, wow, genius. So police were called out to the family home, and it was clear to police that night that this was all a setup. Sean had killed his parents. The way
You're welcome. It's KRYSTI, and then just the regular spelling of Jackson.
An intruder. Nothing was taken, all their jewelry, their money, their TVs and stuff. Like nothing was taken.
I can't think today. Okay, so we've got yellow. Let's start with yellow.
Sean said that he left the gun on the floor to make it look like the intruder like dropped his weapon, but like the gun had his fingerprints on it. So Sean just really was an idiot here. I was trying to figure out what exactly it was that the police like knew it was Sean. Like was it the way he was acting or something? But I really couldn't find the information as to what sealed it at the family home. I just was reading different articles that said he was acting funny, the house looked not like an intruder came in and stuff, and then he was arrested or whatever. And like that's really all I could find. So Sean was arrested like right after the discovery of his parents' murder. When news broke of the case, his entire community was dumbfounded. This young 16-year-old kid had murdered his parents in cold blood. And more than that, now, here was the really shocking
Star.
part.
She is one of 8
claimed to have done it
in the house.
Demons said that he should. Now, this was a Christian community, okay? This is a Christian
She likes to sit there and look out that window.
The devil is in our town. They are losing it. They are losing it. The Christian community,
and then we have
especially, was
pink,
using
which
it
is
to
always a
show
fun color.
He became the poster boy. Look what can happen if your child goes to the dark side. Look what can happen when your kids play Dungeons and Dragons. They were running with the Dungeons and Dragons thing, even though Sean said that it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. They were using this to try and get Dungeons and Dragons shut down. They called it the Devil's Board Game.
The Devil's Board Game.
That's
fucking great.
It became like, let's ban
I love
Dungeons
it.
and Dragons.
Okay.
Whatever. It became a mess. So remember Sean's friend, Richard? Well, Richard, who was with Sean at the time of the murder of Robert Bowers, he too was initially charged with first-degree murder, but the state would end up dismissing the charge and recommended that he give a 5-year suspended sentence in exchange for testimony against Sean. So Richard, he's like, okay, I'll testify.
Named Jameson. I love that. I've always wanted a tuxedo cat, but they're like
saying that Sean
hard to find out here.
Forming the intent necessary to commit
Green.
first-degree murder because he was either
Thank you for the lights.
or legally unconscious at the time of all 3 killings. The jury was not told that Sean was only 16 at the time of the crime, but instead, jurors were asked to decide whether his age was a mitigating factor. So the judge did not allow the defense to introduce expert testimony that juveniles are developmentally different to adults, because the judge said that all jurors, they would know that anyway. So Sean is only 16, and nobody was allowed to tell the jurors that a 16-year-old isn't the same as a grown adult, because according to the judge, the jurors already knew this. But the prosecution was focusing on Sean being an adult when he picked up that gun, that he acted like a man, and he's going to have to stand up there like a man because he made this adult man decision to murder. Because he picked up this gun, he should be charged as a man because he was acting like one. And a lot of people agreed with that. And I was like, I don't know, you guys, but... Well, eventually, Sean was convicted of first-degree murder, and...
Thank you. You have a wonderful day too, babe.
He was a continuing threat to society. Now, because he was considered a continuing threat, on October 1986, Sean Sellers was sentenced to death. Now, here's where the hot debate comes in, because Sean, at the age of 17, was sent to death row. In prison, as he waited for his execution, Sean had a spiritual awakening, and he would end up converting to Christianity. So, Sean's friends started a website on his behalf, and they were campaigning for a clemency based on his religious conversion, his age, and involvement in Satanism. While on death row, Sean made numerous appearances in the media. He was on the Oprah Winfrey Show. He was on a pretty notorious segment on Geraldo, which was about Satanism, and it was just like controversial for this time. And he also appeared, Sean, in many documentaries about Satanism and serial killers for 48 Hours, MSNBC, and the A&E network. So he was making his rounds, Sean. But he was going around telling everybody that Satanism made him commit these crimes, but now that he was a Christian,
Star, don't do that.
he knew what he did was wrong, and Christianity saves his life, which is fine, right? You're allowed to say that. But it had people kind of feeling a certain way. Like, was he being sincere, or was he talking about this because, like, he didn't want to die? He wanted to get off of death row. Sean's step-siblings, they refused to believe that his conversion was sincere. They thought he was doing it so he wouldn't get put down. Prison officials.
Okay, y'all, and that is the look for Ceterosexual today.
Sean was telling the truth.
Stay tuned for TikTok videos, and I will have the next look for you tomorrow.
Sean was making
Have a wonderful day.
Around talking about how God saved his life, how he's a changed man, he's a Christian now, and he loves the Bible, in summary. And the Christian community, some were standing behind him.